You're listening to Wellbeing Connection, the CMHA Manitoba and Winnipeg podcast. I'm your host, James Wellsman.
The Canadian Mental Health Association, Manitoba and Winnipeg, wishes to acknowledge that we are gathered in Treaty 1 territory at the crossroads of the Anishinaabe, Métis, Cree, Dakota, Ojibwe nations, and on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe peoples and the homeland of the Métis Nation.
In this episode, James and Brandon provide a ride update. A little over a week after Brandon has completed his 3:30 ride challenge, he has some calls to action for you and some thoughts and feelings to share after having completed such a task. Then we have a conversation recorded prior to Brandon's 3:30 ride challenge with Erich and Holly Enns. Following that, James and Stephen have a conversation about intellectual wellness and how that relates to what's going on in Canada right now.
None of the content in this podcast is intended to replace the advice given to you by your medical team. If you are in crisis, please phone the Manitoba Suicide Prevention and Support Line at 1-877-435-7170 or text CONNECT to 686868 for the Kids Help Phone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of Wellbeing Connection. We are talking about intellectual wellness today, and we're also going to be recapping just here in this segment now about Brandon's Ride 3:30 challenge and how that went, how he's feeling after a little over a week of having completed the challenge. So, Brandon, how does it feel?
It feels really good. It's I've had enough time now to really think back to the ride and all the little things that happened along the way. There were a lot of great moments that, as a team, I think we were able to just enjoy some of our pain together at times, and a lot of nice stops along the way. And it was just kind of a cool experience. Now that I can it's been done, I've digested it. The legs are feeling a little better. I certainly have never experienced such stiffness in my legs after those first few days of recovery. So legs are better now. So that's nice. Took some much needed R&R after that ride. So yeah, it's nice to just think back to the little moments, just like Emily and I talked about last time, the climbing the tower at the end. Just other things, stopping at the beach, to see the lake along the way, and just the great team support that we had to make something like that happen was fantastic. And of course, the ability to ride with, we were able to ride with our family to do it. Can't think of a better way to spend a weekend. Well, I can think of a more relaxing way to spend a weekend, but it was a good time. So happy to do it, and looking forward to see what it comes along the path next year. So speaking of relaxing weekends, James, how was your weekend?
Yes, well, the same weekend of Ride Don't Hide, I participated in my ride. And if you've been listening to the podcast before, you would have heard that I was thinking of doing yoga. However, I pivoted a bit. So I did a hike, and this was something that was really important to me because this is something that I've wanted to do for over 10 years and just haven't gotten myself to do it. And I did this by making a connection. So instead of looking up what's the best hiking trail and finding some reviews from someone who I've never met before, I reached out to Brandon and I said, this is something I want to do. Do you have any recommendations for someone new to this?
And I've done a few hikes, so I know the area kind of pretty well. So it was kind of neat. I really appreciated that he reached out, and this kind of relates so well to that intellectual wellness piece because there's a lot of hard things that we can do in our life, and one way to accomplish that is just by reviewing what other people have done, and reaching out to that network of those around you. There's very few instances, I think, where you're looking to do something and somebody hasn't already tried it. And so taking the time to research it, certainly there's a physical component of a hike, of a bike ride. There's that mental component of doing it. There's also the planning stage where you need to research the length, sort of where are your rest stops, what kind of gear do you need, how do you need to do it? And that really is a part of how you accomplish a lot of your goals and how do you accomplish a lot of your wellness goals. for our bike ride, we reached out to some really, experienced riders that shared a lot of information. I knew some, but I wouldn't say I could have done that without the network that was around me to provide that information. So, yeah, it's kind of neat. I appreciate it when James reached out. That's the thing, right? A lot of people, don't be afraid to reach out for that support. There's a lot of people that have done things that maybe you're looking to do, and many people are not afraid to share what they know. Probably enjoy it, and it was kind of, I think that was a great connection, right? Such a well-being connection,
There
if I
you
may
go.
say so. Oh, so how was the hike, James?
Yeah, it was really great. I got to rest my mind in a lot of ways, put my phone away, only took a couple of pictures.
You got to take more next time. That's the biggest mistake people make. They don't take enough photos of stuff.
But I was able to really get out of it what I wanted, which was to disconnect a bit and to let my mind wander as I saw the complex visual stimuli around me, all these plants, all these animals, blueberries, eating some superfood along the way, getting to forage, connecting with what it would have been like to be a hunter-gatherer. And in that moment, I was the gatherer, and I really enjoyed it. You get to really scan your environment and say, like, what are the good blueberries? What are the bad blueberries? And make sure you go for it. It's good to try new things, but make sure you are.
I didn't know there were bad blueberries.
There's some.
Are there?
There's some that are a little more sour, as I learned.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Just make sure you're eating the right berries.
Yeah.
There's some decoys around there that you wouldn't want to eat. So make sure you look up how to navigate the outdoors safely too. But it's really good way to challenge the mind. Also a good way to give a rest for your mind when you're going into whatever intellectually demanding task you're doing throughout the week.
Which hike did you do, James?
McGilvroy.
James is from Ontario, so he's not familiar with our Manitoba Parks area, but yeah, McGilvray Falls.
And
got to bug him a little bit.
Highly recommend it. And I also recommend learning pronunciation of place names from people that you know in your life, because it was an opportunity to laugh just now. And here we go.
The last person from Toronto that we had here called Portage Avenue, the Portage Avenue.
That was me.
It wasn't you, actually. It was someone else from Toronto.
Oh.
We're all bad at it. So it's fine.
All good. Well, thanks, Brandon. Let's go on to the rest of the podcast. Thank you.
Hey, this is Brandon, the Ride Don't Hide ambassador for 2021. And I wanted to share a little bit of a story that came my way here with Holly Enns and her dad, Erich. So Holly, tell us really quickly what you do at CMHA, and we'll kind of jump into how this all kind of transpired.
Okay, yeah, my name's Holly. I just started working at the CMHA probably like 5 weeks ago. I work in the Bounce Back program as the administrative assistant. And before that, though, I've been involved at CMHA for years in the Learning Center as a participant, in the Employments with Support program as a participant, and doing the yoga here when they used to do that. And yeah, I've enjoyed a lot of the things as a community member that CMHA has to offer. And yeah, now just started working here and got involved with Ride Don't Hide for the first time.
So just someone that's had a strong connection from the community, and now also contributing from the from working here as well. And so that's just fantastic in of itself. And so I was chatting with Holly one day about Ride Don't Hide and a few other things, and she mentioned that her dad, Erich, is participating, and we've got Erich here too. So Erich, can you just tell me, like, how your ride went, what'd you do, and just how it all went?
Oh, hi, Erich Enns here. Yes, my ride went well. I rode on Monday on the 21st of June. I had the day started quite cool. I think my starting temperature was 2 degrees. So clothing was a bit of a challenge, knowing what to wear, knowing it would warm up. So basically I had a jacket with removal of sleeves and that sort of thing. And that part was well. I was rolling by 6:40 a.m. And the first leg of the trip went really well to Beausejour. Had sunny skies, kind of a crosswind, but that part all worked well. It was 4-lane highways, so traffic was not an issue at all. So I got to Beausejour in really good spirits. stopped for a break there, and took off a layer because feeling like the sun was going to, continue to get warmer, and started up again. I had my lunch at the Broken Head River, or breakfast, I guess you would call it. And
we have a nice photo of that.
Oh yeah. Then I continued, and within 5 minutes, it clouded over. The wind changed direction, and it cooled off. So now I was okay. Great. It's I've got more of a headwind, and it's cooling off. I'm now on a 2-lane highway with a gravel shoulder. The traffic is becoming an issue. Shortly it started to drizzle and rain a bit, and the roads were wet. I was getting wet, but I didn't feel like stopping to change. I thought, well, it could change again in 5 minutes. So, and I had an incident where, I'll just say what I'm surprised at in a highway like that, where there's not really that much traffic, but it's amazing how often the oncoming traffic meets the traffic riding in the same direction you are. So now you have three crossing at the same time. And this happened several times. And the one time it happened with a gravel truck, and I really got a scare. I was on the shoulder. I think part of that tells me maybe these 2-lane highways aren't a good idea for a bike, because the bike never wins in that situation. So I did have a little rear view mirror on my bike, which you were asking about things that are good to have along on a trip like this. That's helpful because it kind of lets you see what's coming. And from that scare on, whenever I saw that situation arriving, I just went on the shoulder and just said, no, I'm not worried about losing a bit of time here because I'm going on the gravel or something like that. So.
And let's just say, as far as losing a bit of time, I'm not sure what your normal pace is, but averaging 29.2 kilometers an hour, I think, on that trip, though, like a pretty good time. So, and Erich, so your total distance, what was your total distance, and how long did it take you to get to your destination?
The total distance was, I believe, 164.8. About a mile from the finish line. I checked my Strava, and it told me I was at 156.8. And I said, well, I told everyone I was going on a 160 kilometer ride. So I better make sure I get 160 kilometers in here. 160.2 kilometers is 100 miles. They said, I'm not going to come up short on a century ride. So I did add a little extra at the end, a little extra route just to make sure. And then it ended up being 164.5 or 8 or something like that. So yeah, well into the 160. So that was good. And I think the total time start to finish was 6 hours and 7 minutes and change. And then the actual moving time was 5:35, 5 hours and 35. So yes, I was quite happy with all those numbers. That actually was beyond my expectations. So.
Yeah, I was quite impressed, and obviously thinking ahead to the ride that I want to do. I was just thinking that if we can maintain anything close to what you did, I'll be happy. I guess tell me a little bit about like why you were riding. So you were participating in Ride Don't Hide. Tell me a little bit about what brought you to do this. I think you were saying that there was a bit of like a family tradition that was part of this, but why combine that with Ride Don't Hide?
Yes, for sure. The family tradition is part of it, and it's kind of that's a thing. Ride Don't Hide. I'm a retired firefighter, and you can't help but see the amount of mental illness that is out on the streets and around. So I would encounter it often in a week's shift, and also we have it in our family, and it just seemed to me, it just made sense when Holly approached me about it. It just really made sense to do this, and it wasn't even an effort. It just felt good. Yeah.
Oh, that's part of why I think Ride Don't Hide is one of those movements that's just so meaningful. There's all these personal stories behind it, and then it's doing something that is difficult showing what you've done really helps to bring mental health into the open, and helps to really raise funds for our mental health services. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of how your fundraising went? What was the reception when you kind of started saying to people, "Hey, I'm going to do this big ride, and this is what we're fundraising for"? How did that all go?
It went quite well. Everyone was very positive. I set my goal at $1,000. I surpassed that pretty quickly, so I was pretty happy with that. I used social media for the most part to spread the word. Some people had some issues with the format of the fundraising. Some people were hesitant about putting credit cards online and that sort of thing, wondering if there was a e-transfer option or something else. But that would be the only hiccup, I would say. Quite well, and people were receptive, and it's just a real range of donations, so.
Yeah, no, that's good. And Holly, how does it feel, kind of from your perspective? Your dad was riding that day, and I think I remember just seeing the look on your face just seemed to be just so positive and happy, just knowing that your dad was doing this. But like, how does it feel to kind of know that was supporting, the place that you work, with such an amazing feat? How did that feel from your perspective?
Well, I was just kind of blown away at how easy it was to get him to participate. I think I had just listened to the podcast that you and James had done, and you were talking about your ride, and it just reminded me of my dad a lot. And so I let him know, this ride is happening. I think I just wanted to know, do you think you could do this ride? I wanted to compare what he had done to what you guys were doing. And then I heard through my mom that he was excited about doing this ride with you guys, and I had to kind of clarify. But yeah, no, I was super, super pumped. And I didn't realize, Dad, this is your first time doing that ride since you had your accident. Yep. So that adds even more. And you had mentioned to me since that, maybe you won't do that stretch anymore because it's a little too traumatic. And I don't know. It is about facing your fears, not saying that you need to do that again, though.
I think a better route would be like a tour of the Whiteshell. I think would be a nice route. It is a 2-lane highway, but it's 80-kilometer speed limit, and just there's not the big trucks and traffic. It's mostly cottagers and campers and that sort of thing.
Let's circle back to that just for a moment here, because you had alluded to this, Erich, previously that you had been hit by a car recently. So this ride wasn't only a physical challenge for you, but imagine this was also like a mental game perspective. This would have been challenging. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how you overcame that? I have a bit of experience with that sort of a thing, in which I also was hit by a car, and I know that for me that it has taken some time to get through that. But same stretch that you previously had that accident, and then you were able to do it through that. Speak to how that process worked and kind of what that was like for you.
Okay, it was the same route, but it was a different stretch of highway, different part of the route. I got into it, and I knew before the ride started that this was going to be the difficult stretch, because it's 100 kilometers an hour, and it's gravel shoulders, two-way traffic. I just went into it thinking to myself, I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to try to be aware of what's going on around me, and really have faith that the drivers on the highway are going to be aware of their surroundings, which isn't a given all the distractions drivers can be dealing with these days. I made sure I had a bright light on my bike, wore some bright my helmet is pretty bright colored, so I was visible. As far as mental, hard to say. I went into it positively, but I was scared by the end. By the end of that 20-mile stretch, I was pretty scared, and I had to. I kind of said to myself, this isn't a good idea. You're not proving anything to anybody here. So I don't think I overcame anything. And I did it, but I'm still scared. So.
that would certainly be something that would be challenging for sure. And the capacity to think past that and still to keep going, right? I mean, I think that's the perseverance that you showed through that.
Fear is a great motivator. I wasn't tired at all. I was going fast, but good.
yeah. All of a sudden, those legs are moving a little bit more, right? Yeah. You'll look back at your heart rate. Probably if you have a heart rate monitor, you'll look back in there and you'll see that bit of a spike during that section, right? And it's not because you were going extra hard. Well, you were, but a lot of it was due to some other factors there, right? Yeah, no, that's it's all just wonderful to hear. And Holly, if it would have been any other time of year that wasn't involved with COVID, probably would have made it work to have you come with. I think, and I hope that like I'm not sure what Stephen has for plans for the future, but I would love it if this turned into some sort of a ride that maybe it was a bit of a bigger group ride at some point. I'm not sure if you've heard of Juno Malaped, who does trash stigma fundraiser. He's a runner, and every year he does a really long run fundraise. He does it for many organizations, and CMHA is one of them. And so, just one of the things that really stood out to me that when I was chatting with him on the podcast was he was saying that when you want to do hard things, he said one thing that is helpful for you is to think about why you do it. So when you're running or when you're cycling, you have a lot of time with your thoughts. And so thinking about the reason why you're doing this, what's your motivation to do this? And so for me, I think about stories like this, to be honest with you, when I hear about, my coworkers saying, hey, my dad's doing a ride, or I'm knitting a scarf for Ride Don't Hide this year. That's my ride because I can't cycle, something like that. I just find that to be so inspirational. And so, but the other thing he said is that not only think about why you're doing it, but surround yourself by people that have similar values and are doing kind of the same thing. And so that's my I'm not sure how this will work, but my hope is that eventually maybe, when we can do physical rides again, that we can truly start surrounding ourselves, and not just on Zoom, but we can start surrounding ourselves with other people that have similar values. Because I think then we can achieve so much more. So, but yeah.
I know when I was riding, I was thinking of all the people that had contributed to my ride, and that was really helpful. That really gave me motivation to, I wanted to make them proud as well, that they sponsored not a winner or whatever, but just a person that they sponsored a good cause, and it was a good motivation for me to think of those people while I was riding, because they were also part of the reason I was riding. So
all the people that took the time to log on to your donor page, to make a contribution, whatever that contribution was, big or small, it's all helps. Thinking about all the people that have kind of rallied behind you because they knew that what you're doing was important, and what we were raising funds for was important too. So yeah, no, that's just this is all such a beautiful story, and it's probably one of the best Friday day makers I've had in a while. So, and certainly from a personal perspective, also probably exactly what I needed to sit in on today as I'm heading out tomorrow. So
yeah, I bolted a set of aero bars on my bike.
Okay.
And because I have a shoulder issue, it helps for me to have a few positions to be in on the bike to change it up a bit. And also it helps a bit if you're dealing with wind. It gets you down. Arrows.
I was thinking about getting some of those. I was looking at some, and I wasn't sure if they were going to quite be in the budget, but yeah, I was thinking about getting some, but I hope I'll be okay without it. I know there's a few positions that I can go into.
So your ride is how far? What's the distance? Are you guys going there and back? Is that what I read?
Yeah, so we're aiming for that 330 number. I mean, obviously we're going to achieve it. So it'll be it's about 160 kilometers there and back, give or take. So we may need to do to get to the exact 330, we may need to just kind of circle around a little bit, similar to what you did, just to make sure. So it'll be over 2 days, which is nice. I couldn't imagine doing more than 160 kilometers in a day. I think that's just
it's a pretty big push. Yeah.
That's a big push. Yeah. So we'll do it over 2 days, Saturday, Sunday. So head there, have a relaxing Saturday night, and do it again. So yeah, we've got some people that are really helpful for prompting us with diet and hydration. Okay. So I know that's a really important factor.
I had macaroni and cheese and tuna the night before, so that's a tip for you.
That's good to know. I was thinking about what my meal would be tonight as I was sipping my coffee this morning. So
yeah, and because of the cold weather, because of the coolness of the ride, I only went through a water bottle and a half the whole ride.
Really?
I couldn't believe it. Like, I know other years when I've done it, I've gone through probably 6 liters of water.
Yeah.
And this year I wasn't cold. I mean, I wasn't thirsty. I had a bottle of Gatorade, a bottle of water, and I did drink a bunch of water before I left the house in the morning.
Yeah.
And was not really getting thirsty. I was almost making myself drink water. So,
yeah. You're getting uncomfortable almost.
Yeah. And then I had a couple egg salad sandwiches I shoved in the back of my jersey, and that was
I've got some beef jerky marinating upstairs. I'm about to throw in the dehydrator. Not sure if that's good enough, but yeah, no, that's interesting because I'm planning to drink a lot of water. But yeah, I guess if it's not that hot and it's a little bit cooler, you probably don't need to. So
yeah, like I could carry 3 water bottles on my bike, and I didn't even open the 3rd one.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. So
wow.
I just bought a gravel bike. So
okay.
That's the bike I rode, and it was really comfortable.
Yeah, my brother just bought a gravel bike too, and he's been just saying the same thing. The rest of us will be on pure road bikes, right. but he will have that nice spot, kind of, I guess, advantage, right? If the road gets a little wonky, and certainly probably a little more comfortable too, I'd imagine. So
yeah, the frame isn't as stiff, and you have a bit more of volume in your tires to absorb.
Guys, I won't keep you. I know, Holly, you're taking some time out of your work day. I appreciate that, and thank you, Erich. And maybe I'll try to find each other on Strava, maybe, and then you can check my recap over the weekend and whatnot.
For sure, I will do that.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it, and special thanks, Erich, for participating and doing your ride. That's amazing. So. That's real awesome.
Thank you, and good luck with your ride this weekend.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
looks like you got warm weather anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I mean, and generally with warm weather comes south wind, so half of your ride should be good.
Yeah, I know. And at that point, there's nothing you can do. You can't fight the wind. You just got to accept it and learn how to ride.
Manitoba mountains. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
With all this, it's really important to be able to touch on some of the current events happening right now. So we were having a discussion of what is it that I can do?
Absolutely. And so we know that our Indigenous friends and communities across Canada are really grieving and have so many competing emotions regarding the discovery of all these unmarked graves. And what I continue to hear day in, day in and out from my friends and colleagues is, this learning opportunity that we have as, settler descendants, that we have to unlearn a lot of things to learn and then to celebrate. And so one of the things that I know myself and my family has been doing is doing a lot of reading, taking the Indigenous Course Canada, but also my commitment of the 94 calls to action from the TRC. Learning what are those and what ones really apply to what can I do to advocate change in the world that I live in, the community that I live in. And I think, James, this is a great opportunity for our listeners to consider, what are they going to do? How are they going to have that conversation that they need to have? We were just talking about language too, of sometimes, we have a neighbor next to us and maybe English is not their first language, but learning what that language is and learning how to greet our neighbor. That again, that intellectual wellness, really dives into that.
It's so true. When we're learning something to benefit ourselves, our own wellness, but it's so much about the overall good in the world and everything like that. I was talking with a colleague of mine who was talking about learning an endangered Indigenous language, and I thought about how important that might be for me to pursue. And so I want to look through bookstores, pick up a book, look up those resources, challenge myself to do something I don't normally do. I think I deleted my language learning app not too long ago thinking, oh, I'll never get to this. But when it's something really important, when you know what's going on and you want to learn more about the culture around you, it's something that I do that I hope can be meaningful to someone else. And when I can greet someone in their language, I think that will make all the difference.
And I often say to people, we don't have to be perfect at this, and I think that's what kind of limits us sometimes, is that we really feel like we have to have it right and we have to do it the right way in order to start. And this is the beautiful thing about learning and picking up that book, to get that stain out is, you learn, like, you got that stain out, congratulations. But you could have not got that out and could have been really discouraged and kind of threw the book away, but part of it is just kind of persevering and looking at our own resilience and looking at the opportunity to learn. And then who doesn't want to share a success? And so kind of riding that wave, but starting somewhere. And again, don't be afraid to start.
Thank you so much, Stephen. That really inspires me to just open the first page of that endangered Indigenous language book and learn and be able to share that with others too. Share whatever hello might be in that language. I'm yet to know, but I'm excited to learn. Thank you, everyone, for having joined us today. It's a great idea to express gratitude at all times for the people around you. So thank you, Brandon, Erich, Holly, Stephen, for joining me today. Thank you, Marion and Shelby, for the land acknowledgement and disclaimer. And take the time to thank your family, your loved ones around you today. Take care. Thank you.